Welcome and good evening. Thank you for being here. In case we haven't met, my name is Barbara Budd, and I'm the Volunteer and Education Coordinator with the SHTA. Tamara and I are eager to share a little bit of information and answer any questions you have tonight. We would love to do a round robin of introductions, but we're so many that it would take quite a while. So it's super exciting that so many adopters are here, able to be here tonight. So while we're getting going, some of you had already done this, but please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name, what your section or campsite is, and for fun, what's your favorite trail snack? Tamara, do you want to do an official introduction now? I know you did a little one earlier.
Sure. My name is Tamara Ibrahim. I'm the Trail Operations Director for the Superior Hiking Trail, and I won't be working with you as maybe directly and intimately as Barbara, but I do often lead volunteer projects and do a lot of coordination for other trail projects that both are done by both volunteers and contractors. So we'll probably hopefully have a chance. I've had a chance to meet a lot of you in the past, but not everyone.
All righty. So you've probably seen this slide before, but it's my favorite slide. So I'm using it again because it's true. The work you do as adopters helps keep this trail one of the premier hiking trails in the nation. You are amazing, and we are so grateful for you. So that's before we get into anything else, that's really the first thing to say. And now just kind of the nuts and bolts of some of the updates we have for you this week, or this week. Some of what we're going to cover tonight is going to be reminders for folks, but we want to make sure everyone is kind of on the same page and has everything they need. So while some of it's review, we'll try to make that brief, and then we'll give you some really good, solid updates. As always, we count on you for your twice yearly visits, once in the spring before June 1 and once in the fall before November 1st, and also to have you file your reports. And that we'll talk about that a little later, some updates about that. Each year, we also ask you to sign a waiver. Some of you were a little surprised about this last year, so I'm going to mention it again. So we do ask you to sign a waiver each year. I'm putting a link in the chat right now that leads to that waiver, but don't worry too much if you don't get it out of the chat. It is also on our website on the volunteer page. I put it there yesterday, so it's brand new there, and you can find that. There are lots of ways of getting me a waiver. You can send me a PDF or a JPEG. You can send me a hard copy. You can drop off a hard copy at the office. You can even pick up a hard copy at the office and sign it. So any of those things, some folks might be borrowing tools, and that's from the office here, and that's the easiest way to do it. So the other way that you can sign a waiver, if you are planning to participate in an event this year, so if you're going to trail clearing, if you're going to go to one of the many events that Tamara's leading, when you sign up, you'll be signing an electronic waiver. That's the same waiver. So if you know you're going to be doing that, don't bother to do the download, sign, that sort of thing. But we do ask for one waiver from everybody every year. It changes periodically. So that's one of the things that we ask for. Also, if you're signing up to work with Larry in Duluth, that's got an electronic waiver also. So next year, we will have an electronic waiver for all of you as adopters. We do continue to make improvements in our system, and that's just not one that made the cut this year. So that's going to be much easier next year. Also, if you have others to come out and help you, please have them sign a waiver as well. And if you have someone under 18 working with you, they need to have a waiver signed by a parent. And that I need in hard copy. I can't get just a photo of that. Okay, now that you've signed your life away, right? All of that liability, there's a way to protect yourself. If you have not signed up as a VIP, volunteer in parks, you should. Because the Superior Hiking Trail Association is an affiliate of the North Country Trail, this is available to you. The North Country Trail is managed by the National Park Service, and it gives you this program to sign up for. And becoming a VIP gives you the equivalent of workers' compensation coverage while you are doing your assigned volunteer tasks on the trail. So if you have not signed up as a VIP, I strongly encourage it. You can find the sign up information on the volunteer page of our website. There are several like job descriptions to choose from. And one of them is trail maintenance and the other one is trail support, and then swamper. I would say if you have any thought that you're going to be doing any of those things, sign up for all of them all at once, because it's easier than going back and adding one later. And of course, our Sawyers are already requested to be VIPs. So that would be that. So again, on the volunteer page. Also on that website are the job descriptions, the trail maintenance manual, a couple of really fun and short training videos. Most of you have probably seen these already. If you haven't, please take a look at them. And if it's been a while since you look at them, please visit them again. Updates happen. So if you haven't looked at the job description for a while, it could potentially be updated. So take a look at that. And finally, one of the basics is that we have this year started an award program, a kind of a structured award program, which SHTA has not had before. So all returning adopters, which is all of you, will receive either a lopper or a camp shovel with their name on it. If you're going to be passing through Two Harbors, please give me a couple of days notice to make sure that I can get it to you. And then stop by the office to pick it up. If you're not coming through Two Harbors, drop me a line. The easiest way to remember, if you don't have my address in your contacts, I'm at volunteer@superiorhiking.org. That's one of the two email addresses that I manage. You can always drop a line there and say, hey, coming through, or say, hey, I'm not coming to Two Harbors. How can we make this happen? And there's lots of different ways that we can make you make sure you get your either your lopper or your shovel. So just touch base with me and we'll figure that out. The other thing that's happening is that based on total cumulative hours, not just how many hours you have in 1 year, but over time, starting with fiscal year 2022. So that's the year that went from October 1st, 21 to September 30th of 22. We've got cumulative awards, the hard hat, the t-shirt, a buff. Those are the things that most folks are going to get at 40 hours, 75 hours, and 150 hours, respectively. We also have some other things yet to be designed. A lunch bag, a sweatshirt, a tote, a jacket, all of those things are in the hundreds of hours. Now, I understand that sometimes adopters put in just a few hours a year. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that you got shovels, loppers, things like that, because it's going to be a little harder for you to get to those 40 hours, 75 hours, unless you're participating in other events. Some of you spend a lot of time adopting, and that's great. So wanted to make sure that that's the case. The other thing we have are some awesome stickers. We've got the 2023 Blaze sticker there. It's a little tiny one that you can put on a water bottle or a hard hat or something. And then we've also got some adopter stickers. And if you would like me to mail those to you, I can do that. Just send me an email. Otherwise, you can pick them up when you pick up your lopper or shovel. All right. So now Tamara's going to give you a few updates on our trail specs and our standards. And the first slide that we're going to go to next is for trail clearing. It's specific to folks who operate a chainsaw. But if you don't cut with a chainsaw, listen in anyway. Some of the ideas apply to the rest of our trail maintenance as well.
Thanks, Barbara. And I would just say that, the trail clearing standards apply for using hand tools as well, not just a chainsaw. Um, so just to kind of broaden the view a little bit and go back to the standards that Barbara mentioned, you may have noticed, if you've looked at the maintenance manual or just been to any projects or anything or any of these webinars, that our standards have kind of changed in the last few years. And that is to reflect sort of modern trail building and maintenance standards that are used by land management agencies like the Forest Service, the National Park Service, and the DNR, as well as other nonprofit trail organizations like the SHTA nationally around the country, for some of the other long distance trails. And it also kind of reflects the need that we have because the usage on the Superior Hiking Trail has really increased over the last decade or so. And so there's a lot more usage, a lot more impact to the trail, and it just kind of requires more maintenance and maybe a little more of a manicured look, or just heavier duty structures, things like that. So when we talk about clearing or lopping or just other maintenance issues, a word that we use a lot is the corridor, the trail corridor. So what is the corridor? Very basically, it's just a buffer on either side of the actual trail. It includes the tread itself, and then there's a set buffer to either side. And why is it important to keep this corridor open or clear? And pretty much like over time, if you are not clearing things within that corridor, if you're just like cutting down trees like right at the edge of the trail, or like lopping just a little beyond the edge of the trail, eventually it just gets grown in, and it really impacts other maintenance activities that we need to do out there. Like a big one is weed whipping, but also whenever we do project work or do any kind of drainage work, a lot of that stuff just has to be cut back because the trail is too narrow. There's not enough room to work. Okay, so the specs that we're going with now are it does vary slightly depending on location. Like we might expect a little wider and wider corridor in a near a trailhead or really heavily used sections, whereas like if you're a couple miles or like way at the end of the Arrowhead Trail, you might expect it to be a little less maintained. But very basically, the average is for the corridor width is 6 feet wide. So that's 3 feet to either side of the center line of the trail, and then about 8 feet high. And then the tread width should be approximately like 18 to 24 inches or 12 to 24 inches of actual tread surface. And that corridor, that 6 foot wide section, needs to be cleared of all vegetation or down trees and brush that grows up. So anytime you're clearing or brushing, you need to get stuff that's within that corridor and then get all of the cut material outside. So sorry, I got some people visiting me. Okay, so all down trees within the corridor have to be cut outside of that, and then also all the cut pieces of log or whatever need to be removed outside the corridor. A lot of times you'll see a log just kind of rolled off on the edge of the trail. If something's really big, sometimes that's what you got to do, but just know that a lot of times those things are the reason that we end up with muddy trail or pools of water, because those logs can hold water and keep it on the trail. And if you're out there and you have done a really good job and everything is looking great, as time permits, look at removing some older trees or whatever that may have been cut, 4 or 5 or more years ago. You can always push that stuff back and cut it back further and remove it, because that's a good way to kind of reopen and reclaim the corridor.
Hammer,
Yeah.
if now we're going through all of this, and I'm sure not everybody is taking copious notes, where can they find this stuff to review it?
Sure. Everything that I'm talking about should be in the trail maintenance manual that we have on our website, on the volunteer page. Is that what you're thinking, Barbara?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving on to lopping. Just like clearing, you want to get everything that's in the corridor. If you didn't bring a tape measure with you, so you don't know exactly what 3 feet is, a great thing to do is just walk down the trail with your arms outstretched, and anything that you touch with your hands, you should lop it out. For limbing up a tree or pruning, like this young lady is doing in the picture, you want to get close to the trunk of the tree, but not too close. You want to leave about 1/4 or 1/2 inch of branch sticking out, and you want to cut it straight across as much as you can and not leave pointy stobs. If you leave that short length, that 1/4 to 1/2 inch of branch, it helps the tree heal quicker. And then for cutting out brush, small brush like the hazel and the alder and things like that, you want to cut them down at the ground, as close to the ground as you can, and also as straight as possible, so there's no pointy sticks sticking up out of the ground. And take your time. It's slow and tedious work, but if you take your time, it will end up looking better and lasting longer. And the cutting close to the ground is really important, because when the maintenance crews come through to do the weed whipping, if stuff is sticking up a few inches high, then it can really tear up the whipper line. All right, and we're happy to announce that we have a new program in place this year, and it's to give help to sections that have become overwhelming or were being kept at the old standards. And what these events are called is corridor clearing and blazing weekends. And if you would like in-person guidance regarding standards and would like to improve your trail maintenance skills, I'd encourage you to attend one of these weekends. They're in August and October, and if you think that your section might need some help from one of these weekends in 2024 or next season, please let either myself or Barbara know. And if you have any questions about this program, please ask Barbara.
And registration will be up on the website for those about 6 weeks in advance of each weekend. And you can find the information on the volunteer page right now under the Trail Renewal Program events.
So those two last 2 slides were kind of more about trail maintenance, and this kind of goes to is a more campsite specific thing, or completely campsite specific, are wonderful latrines. And one of the things that we ask campsite adopters to do is to look at and try and determine how much space is left in the latrine and what the overall condition of the latrine seat is, because they occasionally need to be replaced. This diagram here was made by one of our contractors, and we all thought it was kind of funny, but pretty clear and to the point. So when we're talking about like how full is the latrine, you can see that, it's rarely a flat level when you're looking down. A lot of times there's a cone and it might be various heights. So you kind of got to look at the space around the outside of the cone to see how much room there might be. And what you don't want is any of the matter inside the latrine to be like touching the latrine riser itself or sticking out of the ground. So we want to hopefully get to it long before that point. But at the same time, we don't want to go out there to dig it before it needs to be done. So you really want to try and estimate as well as you can. I wouldn't actually measure it. I would just kind of guess, because you don't really want to stick anything down the hole, but just do your best and guess. And then with as far as the latrine structure goes, look for cracks or thin spots, or the ones like in this picture that are kind of more, they're not square. They're a little bit rounded on the top and smaller. They have wooden runners. Sometimes those are buried, but a lot of times they're not. And if you can look at the condition of those wooden runners and take note of it, the square ones don't have runners, so you don't have to look at those. And that's pretty much it for latrines. We want to make sure, maintaining campsites, you'll do a fair amount of lopping too with the access trails to the campsite, and then the latrine trails we want brushed really well so people can easily find the latrine. You might want to leave a little screen around the actual structure, but other than that, make it nice and wide.
Tamara? Dave Jansen,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
I think I asked this at a previous meeting. Who is responsible for trail maintenance on a spur trail to a campsite? At the time, I think I was told it would be the trail adopter who would be responsible for that maintenance. And yet I think you might have just suggested that it would be the campsite adopter who would lop the spur trail. Do you want to pick a standard there?
I guess I always assumed it would be the campsite adopter, but I don't know. Barbara, do you know any different? I don't know if we have anything in writing about that. Do you know, Barbara?
I don't know if we have anything in writing. Everything that I have always heard was that it was the campsite adopter since I started a year ago. But it's very so I'm not sure if there's anything in it in writing.
It makes sense to me that like if the section maintainer is already maintaining miles of trail, so it makes sense for the campsite adopter to do it, unless as a campsite adopter you really don't want to for some reason. But I mean, yeah, just let us know. But otherwise, I would think that it makes sense for the campsite adopter to maintain the access trails and the latrine trail.
All right. So, just a few quick reminders. I know you're all picking up trash. That's great. Don't pick up anything that will harm you. Please use gloves. And also, please remove helpful items that shouldn't be left there. Things like grates, rolls of toilet paper, things that people leave behind because they think they're helpful and they're really not, and they shouldn't be there. So remember to pick those things up. Check trailhead signs, campsite signs, all of those things. You're all doing this very well. Just quick reminders. Please check the latrine signs. If a latrine has been moved and the sign has not been moved, we need to know that. So take a peek at that when you're out there. Is the blazing and signage in good condition? That sort of thing. So you all know this. Also, don't skimp on cleaning out the fire rings. Make sure there's plenty of room for the next round of things. Broadcast the ashes widely, not just one little dumping pile. Make sure there aren't any hot embers when you're doing it. And if you don't have a water source near your campsite, know that and carry a little bit extra in just in case you have to deal with some embers. Grab it from a nearby stream, whatever. Please remember to remove extra fire rings. There have been quite a few in the last year that I have heard about. So make sure that if it's not an official fire ring, it should come out. And then you're all checking tent pads. I know that. That's great.
So one of the things that would be great to get people trained up on is maintaining tread. We have a lot of drainage and just sort of tread that really could use some general maintenance and some TLC. So tread and drain, we've got some tread and drainage trainings and other opportunities that are coming. Nothing quite in the works yet or quite scheduled yet, but we're planning some short volunteer events to teach people about proper tread rehab and drainage techniques. So keep your eyes open for those. And when we have a schedule, we'll try and send a note out to everybody. But if you watch the volunteer page, it's a great way to stay up to date on what's happening. And we want to make sure that everybody is following national best practices along with adhering to our maintenance standards. And if you have any tread or drainage issues, please let me or Barbara know for instructions on how to proceed or what you can do about it. And we know that you guys are really good about reporting things. Probably you might feel like you're reporting the same things over and over because it takes a while to get to everything, but we really appreciate those reports. So yeah, if you're interested in possibly doing some tread maintenance, hopefully we'll have some opportunities coming. Is somebody asking a question?
I don't think so, Tamara. I think it was just background.
Okay. All right.
All righty. So here are some things that are outside your realm of responsibility. Please don't do anything that puts you in a hazardous position. Trying to cut a big tree by yourself or something that has a lot of tension on it without the training or appropriate tools. If you come across drug paraphernalia, this is a thing that you need to report to law enforcement. Also, report it to us. We want to know, but law enforcement needs to know right away. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while. Confronting a hiker or a camper that is breaking the rules, you don't need to do that. If you're comfortable and you don't feel threatened, you feel free to say something educational like, do you know that ... right? But don't feel like you need to confront anyone. Don't feel like you need to be kind of the rule enforcer. We want you to be safe. Also, hauling out huge items by yourself that are too heavy to remove. Again, keep yourself safe. So you give us a lot. You give us your time, your energy, you care for the trail. And here are a few things that we can do to help you help the trail. First of all, tools. Tools can be, if you don't have tools, tools can be borrowed from SHTA for yourself, for your friends that you've recruited to help you, that sort of thing. We have shovels, saws, loppers, hammers, even a pole saw. If you're having a hard time reaching up to that, like, you know, if some really tall branch is hanging into that 8-foot corridor or 8-foot high corridor, it can be really hard to cut that all the way back to the tree because sometimes that's a ways up there. So that pole saw is here if that's something you want to borrow. Just give me a few days notice and I can have them ready for you to pick up behind the Two Harbors office or in the office if you want to come visit me. I'd love to have that happen. If the office isn't convenient for you, please just let me know. We'll try and figure something out. Please don't keep the tools too long though. There are, over 100 adopters, right? And we have a limited supply of tools. So there's a sign out sheet in the tool bin. Keep them for, a couple days, a weekend, whatever it is. And if you think you're going to have something for longer, please just let me know so that I can make sure we're going to have enough of stuff around. The other thing is personal protective equipment, which is super important. That VIP workers' comp coverage we were talking about, that's really only good if you're doing your part to protect yourself by using proper PPE. So we have things like hard hats for you to borrow. We have, if your own gloves are probably going to be the most comfortable. But if you have a helper who doesn't have gloves, please let me know. We've got some. Eye protection, we've got some. Those sorts of things. And iPro is always great when you're working a brown brush. I've been poked in the face by pieces of brush over and over. So again, give me a couple days notice and we'll make things happen. If you would like to borrow a first aid kit, we have first aid kits also that you can borrow when you go out. Also, in the last few years, there have been several small reroutes as well as a couple of really big ones. If you need a new map of your section to confirm where you are going, just let me know. I'll scan and send maps with the sections and campsites highlighted and that sort of thing. And here's something really exciting. Our atlas has been updated. It came in, the new one came in this week. If you want a complete new atlas, you can find it in our online store, but I'm happy to send you sections of that. Also, if you use, if you like having things online, Avenza, the app, Avenza, if it's a free app, and if you can download our atlas on that, it is $25 to download it. But once you've got it, you never have to pay for updates again, because every time we update the atlas, it gives you that new atlas through, you just download it again through, it'll tell you that there's updates available. And so then you never have to buy a new atlas. It just automatically updates on your phone or tablet. That, and you buy that, if you choose to do that, you go to Avenza and you buy the atlas on Avenza. If you buy an atlas, either from our trail store or on Avenza, all of those proceeds benefit the store, the trail. Now, a couple of little pieces of miscellany. Remember to check the trail conditions on our page on our website before you come. If you have any questions about the condition of the trail on or near your section, please let me know or Tamara, depending on which end of the trail you're on. We may have more local information. I'm in Two Harbors. Tamara is up near Grand Marais. And so I had one of those questions just today or yesterday, and it was great, lovely to answer. Finally, last year, we were supplied with kits to mark your catalytic converter. So if you're concerned about catalytic converter theft, these have individual IDs to hopefully prevent theft. And if you are interested in picking up one of these kits, we still have a few left. Again, give me a few days notice. This is something that you have to pick up from the store. I can't mail it out to you. I can't do anything like that. Just because of the connection with law enforcement. They want us to have them in the store until you have registered them. So plan to give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to register that before you leave the store. But that we had a lot of folks take advantage of that last year. Please feel free to do so. So now everybody's favorite thing, Reporting. This is the least exciting thing you do. It's reporting your hours. It's filing all of the report about your section. Putting in your hours does help us match the hours that you put in to grants that fund other projects on the trail. So know that you're actually working for the trail twice. You're going out, you're maintaining your section, then we take your hours and we put it toward matching a grant where we can pay for materials for a project or for having a contractor do a project that volunteers can't do, those sorts of things. So it's super vital that you're doing that. And also have any helpers you have report their hours as well. If they're a first-time volunteer, please email me their name and email address, and I will get a portal link sent out to them so that they can also report their hours. Now, we're continuing to improve our reporting system, and thank you very much for your patience as we work through these things. We have heard you. First of all, there are some updates coming. Those updates were supposed to be done by now. I was hoping to show them to you tonight, but they're not quite there yet. We do hope they're coming soon. If you see the same thing that you saw last fall, don't worry. But you could see a few updates coming in the next few weeks. The primary updates to the portal that you will see will be that you'll be able to see not just your hours worked, but your hours driven. And then the other thing is that anyone who's not kind of the lead adopter will not have to go through the entire form to press submit. They will see, the first thing you'll see when you pick it up is you'll see 4 lines. It's that, you know, what date did you volunteer? How many hours did you volunteer? How many hours did you drive? And then what was your role? And when you fill out what was your role, if you choose adopter, you'll get the whole form. If you choose adopter helper or, you know, something like that, then, or any other task that's on there, you'll just get a text box to fill in. And so that will make it easier for people who have helpers to come out, not to have them feel intimidated by this. It's not there yet. It is coming though. And so hopefully it'll be pretty seamless. We know how software upgrades go. So I'm not going to be surprised if we find a few glitches, and I'm going to apologize in advance for that. But it'll make it less confusing in the long run and better in the long run. Also, if you make an additional trip to your section that only really needs hours filled out and not an entire report, right? So you go out to your campsite, right? You clean everything up, you send us the report, and kind of mid-season you're feeling, you know, kind of like taking a walk and you want to go check it out again, and you just do a couple hours out there, but it's not your fall visit, so we don't need an official report unless there's something really wrong. You can just fill out that first part, right? So you don't have to do the whole form. So that's hopefully some time-saving things. Now, when these updates are complete, I'm going to make a short video about how to file the hours and fill out the report. And that's going to be way easier than you trying to read through what the instructions are. I will send that out as a link in an email to all of you. And you can feel free to share it if you've got folks who are helping you. So our gratitude for all of your time in front of a computer as well. Now, this is the best thing. This is really why you're all here tonight. Question and answer. At this point, I will I'll watch for raised hands, but also feel free to put things in the chat. I will watch the chat for questions and answers, and feel free to just unmute if nobody's speaking as well.
I have a question.
Okay.
Last year, it was a pretty wet spring, and I remember we kind of had like a tentative deadline to get out to our adoption places by June 1st, but if it was later because things were really muddy, you know, it could be later than that. Are we expecting that to happen again this year?
I'm sorry. I was looking at the chat answering. I was hoping Tamara would answer the question. Go ahead
I
again.
can, sure, I'll answer it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess at this point, kind of hard to say. I just got like probably about 10 inches of snow at my house today. So it was kind of looking like it was all going away, but it keeps coming. But that being said, I'd say we're ahead of last year in terms of like the snow receding and melting, and it's happening slower, which is always good. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a milder in terms of flooding, a milder spring, and possibly drier. But as we get closer, we'll just have to reassess. So as always, just reach out to us or check our conditions page or ask around.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Great. I have a couple of questions that have shown up in the chat. So one of them is it might not make a difference, but for those of us who have slightly longer hikes to our section or campsite, does that go under work or drive? It goes under work. Once you are out of your car, you are working. So the drive is from your home to the trailhead. Okay, and from the trailhead back to your home. The hours of work are from when you get out of your car, you start hiking, you get to your work site, and all of the time that you're working. So that is a good question. What are the current hours of the SHT store? The store is not quite open yet. The store will be open on Fridays and Saturdays, I believe starting in May. So keep your eyes open, post on the website for that. Our trail store online is open 24/7, and we do curbside pickups. So feel free, if you want something now, if you want to order it online and say that you want a curbside pickup, you can stop by the store pretty much most business hours. Jody does ask for you to arrange it so that we're not all in a staff meeting or something, right? So she'll send you a little email saying, hey, what time can you pick up? And would these times be okay? And then we will do that for you. I've got a couple more questions in the chat, and then we'll go back to some live questions. So 2 more questions in the chat, and then we'll go to some live questions. So the tread and drainage trainings, are these potentially happening in 2023? Yes. Tamara, do you have any new information on that?
No, I don't. But we're planning, they're going to be pretty small, short events, probably just like day-long type things. So it'll be just kind of a shorter experience. So should be pretty palatable.
And hopefully we will have them listed, know about them early enough to list them in Trail Mix. So watch Trail Mix for those to come up. And if you are particularly interested in those trainings, I will try to start a wait list for that, and you can let me know. So send me an email saying, I want to go on one of these tread and drainage trainings, and I will start a list for that. Okay, one more question. My section includes about a mile of road. Any specific duties or responsibilities for that section? Also, the signing and blazing seems a little sparse along the road. What to do / report? Okay, so if you have a road section and you're concerned about, first of all, basically a road section is just a sign check. Are the signs where they're supposed to be? We do have a sign protocol, kind of where we want signs, where they're supposed to be placed, where how many signs, that sort of thing, because part of the SHT's kind of feel is to be a place where there's enough signs that folks should be able to find their way, but not so many that you're seeing a sign all the time. So that said, if you have questions about your section specifically, email me. I will hook you up with Mac, who is in charge of our signage plan. So do send me a quick email if you have questions about signage, whether you've got enough, not enough, too much, and we'll make sure that you have that specific information for your section. Okay, we had a couple of live questions. Jerome.
This isn't so much a question, just I want to mention something about corridor clearing. Tamara, when you were talking about stretching out your arms and anything that you can touch to take out, I just wanted to mention that there's lots of little trees that are going to be below your arms stretched out, and you're not going to touch those, but they're right on the corridor within that 3 feet section. People like those cute little trees and they don't want to take them out. And if you want to talk more about this, you can, but those trees should be taken out too, because we're going to have to just keep trimming them back. Half of a tree will have no branches on one side if you continue to let the tree grow, and we just have to work around it. And also the weed whippers, they get in the way of the weed whippers as well. So if we can take those little trees out when they're young and they're easy to pull out, usually by hand, you don't have to lop them, they'll just pull out by hand. It's a good thing to do when you're going out there and take them out, and then we don't have to worry about them in the long term down the road.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Jerome. Yeah, anything that falls in the sphere of your arms, I guess. And actually, most people probably, their arms aren't quite long enough, so you cut a little further. But yeah, cut those little things at the edge of the trail. Spruce and balsam, they will continually grow into the trail. If you've got, like, you're touching like a balsam branch of like a young tree, a lot of times it really just is a lot quicker and makes a lot more sense, and in the end looks a lot better to just take the whole tree out rather than trying to prune a tiny little tree. So thanks for that. Good point, Jerome.
And
One more thing. When you're taking out trees with a 1 inch diameter, 2 inch diameter, whatever, if they're ending up to be close to the trail, sometimes hikers don't like to see trees being cut down sometimes. So what I will do is just muddy up my boot a little bit and then put my boot tread on that cut portion to darken it with the mud and sort of blend it into the trail. And then it's not being seen by those hikers as being cut off, and they won't even know that it was there.
we talk about the trail being, and I don't necessarily really like this language, but it's very visual. It's a corridor of sacrifice. So if somebody comes along and you're clipping and pulling trees and things like that, and pulling baby trees out, things like that, and somebody's like, oh, a baby tree, whatever. A corridor of sacrifice is what the forest gives up so that we can be out there and the rest of the forest will not be disturbed. It's kind of a leave no trace principle. We are going to stay on the trail, but in order for people to stay on the trail, all of that stuff has to go away. So that's kind of how that works. All right, more questions.
Well, Terry and I had a quick questions. Well, actually two, but one is, so we work together, but it sounds like it's most helpful if we report as one adopter and a helper so that you get capture both hours, all hours.
Yes, yeah. Yes, please. And then you can start earning your hours for all those awards so that, so I've had some couples say, but we just want to do one report with just hours for both of us. If there are two things that help us. First of all, first of all, the number of volunteers also helps us with grants. So if there are two of you working, but one of you reporting, I actually, that cuts the number of people we have down. So it is very helpful to have both of you reporting, and one of you doesn't have to do much. It just has to be a quick little Zoom, right? Those 4 lines. The other thing it does, it lets everyone earn hours toward those fun t-shirts and stuff that we've got out there. Ooh, I know not everybody, that doesn't matter to everybody, but some people love those things. So, and they work for advertising for us, because you wear that volunteer t-shirt and people know they can come volunteer on the trail. You had another question, Sue.
We're gonna have to fight over who gets to be the adopter and who gets to be the helper.
Okay. The other question was, so at the Caribou campsites, campsites are off the main trail, but there is a spur trail actually that goes down to the parking lot at that point. That is a spur trail off the main trail. Is that a responsibility? I didn't know if it's Forest Service or DNR that takes care of that roadside place and the spur that goes up to the bridge and everything at Caribou. I'm not really sure if we're responsible for that spur or just the, the little spurs that go into the campsites.
Yeah, I would say just the access trail. The spur from the parking lot to the main trail is maintained by a section adopter.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. I see Elger has a question here about flattening the poop pyramid in a latrine with a shovel to fill in the periphery more. I would say not to do that. Unless well, I don't know. It's then you're gonna end up carrying a shovel around with you that has human waste on it, and it could fall off or get spread around the campsite. It's just best to try and keep as much of that stuff in the actual latrine and not really moved or brought out. And honestly, rain and groundwater that infiltrates there and then drains back out, a lot of times that does a pretty good job of flattening things out. And so, yeah, I mean, if the cone was really, if it was like an emergency, I guess I would just notify us as soon as possible and we'll get somebody out there. I mean, it wouldn't be something I'd recommend doing.
That is a really good point, Tamer. If you find something hazardous on your section or campsite, please send us an email. We will look at your reports, but it doesn't always happen immediately. So sometimes I wait like 2 or 3 weeks to gather all of the reports together and look through things and that sort of thing. So if there's something that's really urgent, a hazardous situation, send us an email besides just putting it in your report. And a picture helps. Yeah, and by the way, full latrines, that's urgent. More questions. These are good questions, folks. Thank you. All right. Oh, here we got one. We got one in the chat. Oh, not a question. Okay. I think one more quick. Anybody got a question? 5 seconds. Okay. Well, then we have done this in just under an hour. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for sharing, for asking questions, for doing the whole thing. It was great to see everybody here tonight. Please feel free to reach out if you need anything. Have a great night, and I hope you can get out on your sections and campsites soon. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
you.
Good night.